Can you tell the viewers more about how did you switch to game dev, to gaming design?
Yeah, sure. I can talk about that. I mean, as we already covered, I was always a huge geek.
Yeah,
right.
A bit nerd.
Yeah, massive nerd. But I mean,
with
I always dreamt of working with games, and I made games as a kid. And I think during my career, when I worked in more app design, I always tried to make very gamified experiences. A lot of the apps that we made when I ran RoboCat was almost games or blurring the lines. We also did like lots of sound design and like trying to do fun little things in our apps. So I always wanted to make games. We actually made a few games. So it was natural for me to like when the time came for me to start this new company, I was like, I'm making a game studio. This is what I want to do. This is like everything's led to this moment. And I think maybe had also grown a little tired of doing design, like UI design in the app space. I think there was
there is more art, I think, in the game.
Yeah, there can be, but also like I think when we grew up as designers, like it was kind of like the Wild West. The tools that we used allowed us to break all the rules. Like I still use Photoshop. I know you can't even say that loud these days. Like, yeah, shh. I mean, I have a great appreciation for people who use some of these other wonderful tools. I really like the Sketch team, and I know a lot of people use Figma also. And I've made tools for all of those apps. But I think something kind of happened with the next generation of tools that kind of restricted things a little more. It's kind of like what happened with Flash back in the day, right? All websites were kind of crazy artful. You can click everywhere and sounds would pop up, and like it more bled. Like I think art and software bled together a little more, whereas we got really good at it, and now it's a little more stringent. It's like particularly in corporate design, like I feel like we're just putting different colored squares together, right? I'm just drawing squares. There's a lot of that, and you really have to fight if you wanna make something artful or something that's different, that doesn't adhere to that doesn't violate some design system or some rule internally in the company, and so yeah, I that's why I fled into game design. I think I wanted to do UI design. I kind of and game UI design has a lot more axes that you can play around with. There's a lot of different things in that space.
There is no design tyranny in gaming.
There is very little design tyranny, but also I think the thing for my career has always been that I was just drawn to making experiences for people, right? So when we made apps or we made services or whatever websites, I was always trying to tell this little story to people through art, through sound, through whatever little quirky detail I could put in there. So, and I think games is like the perfect expression of that, really. So I've probably always gravitated towards that. It's a space where the goal is literally to have people enjoy themselves, like to create something that's fun. So I transitioned into making games full time. Luckily, some people were good enough to wanted to join my company, and we launched the first game we worked on was a game called Conduct This for iOS. Yes, Conduct This. It was like a train action puzzle game, and you'd basically like it's still out there. It has millions of players. It's quite popular, and we ended up actually making it for Switch as well and for Steam also. But it's like you control these little trains and make sure that you transport passengers and not crash into each other. It's like a little action puzzle game, and we had 8 months before I ran out of money.
Oh.
So I was like, okay, we got 20 levels now. When time was up, we got to ship. We're shipping it now, and that's actually one of the reasons why I Conduct This still to this day is a very difficult game. It's really difficult. I've seen grown men cry over it on YouTube. So we launched it. I think this was like Christmas of 2016, maybe.
Oh.
Yeah, and we launched it. We really wanted to get it out before Super Mario. Remember when Super Mario came to the iPhone? It was a big deal, right?
Yeah.
And we were like, oh no, it's gonna drown out a little launch of our little train game. And then we launched, and of course, we did everything. You do the newsletter, you do all things, and we got around 10,000 downloads, which was cool, but not enough to run a studio on. And then the lockdown happened, right? It still happens with the App Store, where they basically locked down the App Store over Christmas. So nothing really moves there. And then right before the lockdown happened, some genius person at Apple chose to feature our game. And it was right next to Super Mario. And actually, Super Mario bombed. It was not a very good iPhone game, right? So people were kind of angry at Super Mario, and right there next to it was our little train game. So we got over Christmas, those 2 weeks there, we got like 1 million downloads, I think.
Wow.
Which completely changed everything for us.
Yeah.
It was a much simpler game then. Later on, it's grown a lot. It's a much bigger game now. But yeah, so and then we looked at each other, like, okay, we can build a company.
Yeah, well, from 10,000 downloads to 1 million, you can build two companies and still have some out.
That's pretty good, and it allowed us to have enough money to make the next game and to fail at some games also, because as we talked about already, you gotta experiment. I think we got kind of lucky with that first game that we did as Northplay. So yeah, that's how I transitioned into game dev.
As a huge nerd, I thank you and people like you who develop games to make our lives better and add more art to this. So yeah, on behalf of all nerds, thank you.
Thank you.